your old friend, the Riddler, Taylor Ruddle. Welcome back to another episode of Ruddle Me This. Today is a little bit of a penance for my incredibly long episode last week. I am going to be releasing a nice little bite-sized piece of content today, influenced not at all by the fact that we had countless technical issues in trying to record this podcast. We started out and initially Finn wasn't recording, so we did about 15 minutes, only to find out that 1/3 of the conversation was not captured. We started again, got through the guts of what I wanted to get through, the history of the Lamington, and then we realised that, right afterwards we realised that Danny's recording cut out at around 30 minutes. So I figured rather than do it again, I'm just going to post what we have, and I hope you enjoy it. So the three of us, the two of them created a satirical news Instagram account called the Lamington. I was initially brought on to help them with the graphic design for some of the images, photoshopped some of the images together, but I was eventually welcomed into the writer's room, able to submit satirical headlines to the group, along with a whole bunch of other really, really funny writers around New Zealand. So I thought it would be fun to invite Danny and Finn, the two masterminds behind the Lamington. They are definitely the driving force of why it's been able to continue for about 3 months now since we started it. Fans of my Instagram account will probably remember my short-lived attempts at doing a satire, fake news kind of thing, which got no traction and didn't end up going anywhere. So I thought it would be cool to bring the lads on and chat to them a bit about how they decided to come up with this idea, how they managed to follow through with it, and what their plans for the future are. We go into more detail about what the Lamington is, as well as the plans for the future in the actual interview, so I'm not going to waste any more of your time. We will roll the interview. Take it away, me. Welcome to the podcast.
Okay, I'll dance for you like a monkey. Just keep saying jokes, Danny. Keep saying jokes, you little joke monkey.
Because we've started recording now. For those of you who are tuning in, I accidentally stopped recording, and so we had to restart. So that's on me, and I apologise.
This is take 2, so welcome back. Let's recap what we got through. So, the Lamington. Danny, will you want to give us your elevator pitch for the Lamington again?
It's essentially the New Zealand version of The Onion.
Got it, thank you. And
in the first recording, I talked for like 2 minutes. I talked for like 2 minutes in the first recording there.
And we've been going for 96 days, I believe was the official count. You can check that by going to the Lamington Instagram account and give us a quick recap of how you decided to make the Lamington.
I'll take this one, Taylor.
Yep, go for it.
So, Danny and I have been friends for a very long time, and creative partners for less time than that, but we still have been creative partners for a while. And we have, every now and again, we have these ideas, so many ideas of just like things to do, which I'm sure everyone does. They just come up with ideas at parties or whatever. And a lot of those ideas do not make it to daylight, but this was one of the ones that we ended up following through on.
And the reason we established before that this one did follow through is because it was incorrectly assumed that there was not a lot of work that would go into it, but we learned pretty quickly.
So much work.
So much work. Well, the thing is that we're also doing like a very pared down version of The Onion. So with The Onion or like the Batuta Advocate or Reductress or all of those things, they all have websites that post articles, and they have the headlines, but the headlines are just kind of like the tip of the iceberg, the thing that most people see, and then underneath they have like a whole article that builds on the idea. We don't currently have that. We'd like to eventually get to the point where we have some kind of publication, which would be real cool, but we were like, digital age, most people don't actually read those headlines. Most people don't read news, like articles.
The actual news, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Most people don't read the articles. So we were like, why don't we just do the headlines and see what happens if we just like keep posting headlines and just keep like having jokes that people see, and then they keep scrolling through and they're like, oh, that's fun. Because like we're kind of what we were basing ours off is less like print media and more like kind of news or like Instagram news, like shit you should care about type thing. So we were like angling more at people who want bite-sized bits of updates.
We got big plans, Taylor. We got big plans.
Yeah, we got big
I can imagine.
If we love
Like
them.
two things right off the top of the dome. Taylor, am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
You can fucking swear as much as you want, Cobber.
Okay, cool. I had to check, as you always
For the
do.
listeners, I just want to stop you before you start, Danny. The look of joy on his face when I said, yes, you can swear, is I've never seen him that happy before.
Fucking elated is what I am right now.
Exactly. So
two big
continue.
ideas, Taylor, right off the top of the dome. Number one, eventually we'll write like actual articles and then we'll come out with some sort of zine, like some sort of like short
That's
magazine,
cool, yeah.
like 2-3 pages. And then just kind of like drop them around university campuses, because that's kind of like, I think, our target demographic at this point is just like young university kind of like cool people sort of thing. So drop them around university campuses. That'll be sick. Also want to start making like Instagram reels where we can also get other comedians and friends of ours, and we could do throwaways too. Like for more on Cyclone Tony, we pass it over to Laura, our weather expert, and then it might cut to somebody like horizontal holding onto a telephone pole as somebody off camera is like holding their legs, and then we chuck on like edits of like rain and a storm sound effect, and they're like, oh my god, it's just another normal day in Wellington, and then that's like the end of the reel. And so like envisioning eventually you'll like scroll through the Lamington's Instagram page and there'll be like a reel, and there'll be the headline, and then there'll be like other stuff. So it'll be like pretty multifaceted, but at the moment it's just the headlines. Fuck.
Yeah, for sure. Which I think is the main thing that people
you didn't swear
would...
at all through that whole...
that was
sorry.
really eloquent.
I realized that I had like, I needed to get my quota in.
You saw the walls closing in
there.
and thought, I got to get one in before the buzzer.
Exactly.
No, well, that's really cool. And the other thing, I guess, so I also attempted to do my own satire, like maybe a year ago, but the thing, much like you said, I didn't sort of realize how much goes into it when I started doing it, but then also there's a couple of things that Lamington did right that I didn't do, and I think that's why it's been a much smoother process, is for a start, there's more than just one person writing the headlines, which you learn really quickly. Not everyone shares your sense of humour when you're just writing things that are only relevant to you, and I think the thing we do really well with the Lamington is we've got a really broad group of people submitting stuff, and so you get all these different senses of humour as well as different perspectives on the news. And the other thing that the Lamington does really well that was good from the get-go is we blocked in a weekly meeting to actually vote on and then talk about the headlines, which is a discipline thing, and a lot of comics don't realize how much discipline you need to write consistently, because we all give 10 headlines every week for the little meeting, and for the most part I don't struggle to come up with 10. How about you guys? Do you tend to find that you've got more than you need, or is it like you just write to 10 and then submit it?
Definitely write more and then cut that down. We before we started the Lamington, we did a lot of research into like how these other satire news platforms organize their writing team.
Cool.
And the Onion does a similar thing, but they do it obviously more catered towards how their platform works, which is larger articles and like, so they have a writing team as well, and they have, I think it's weekly meetings where they all pitch headlines in a similar way that we do it, where they will read theirs out, and then it will go to a vote. They might have time to discuss it. One podcast that I listened to, which was very funny, very illuminating, and the way that they run theirs is they were talking about kind of similar to what we are going to do in a sec, where they were talking about headlines that didn't make it through and why. They were talking about one of these meetings where you can go and listen to that podcast instead of this one where I give you a secondhand account, but essentially
Sure, yeah.
they have this criteria that it has to not only be, it has to make them laugh, but it also has to have enough content in that initial headline to build an article from. And one of the headlines that they pitched was Ghost drops by just to say boo. And that it made a lot of people laugh, but also caused a lot of conflict because there wasn't a lot to build from. So I think
That makes sense.
that's kind of where we take our inspiration from. So we definitely want a broader range of ideas and demographics contributing to this pool of headlines. Because if it was just us, we would just endlessly put out Ghost drops by just to say boo. Like, that would be the content that we frequently put
love
out.
those. I think you'll notice, I think what's good about the Lamington at the moment is that I'd say about half of the writers comedically are quite silly, and then the other half kind of aren't. And I think, but that other half are also still quite different to each other. So I think that means that more silly headlines end up getting through, but which I think is good because that is kind of our target demographic, is those like young people that really like those silly jokes. But then that also means that whenever like a really, really like solid joke comes through from the other half, then that gets through, and then that just kind of like changes it up.
It stands out quite a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Really in the beginning, especially with the younger demographic, because people are so voracious for content, the only response you really need is that kind of snort, the exhale from the nose laughter, which is most people on their phone scrolling through just want a couple of seconds of serotonin as they kind of laugh or recognize the thing.
Yeah. Well, over the course of doing the Instagram account, we've only had, like, I think 1 or 2 people unfollow, which is, like, obviously disappointing that they unfollowed.
And we know who you are, and we are coming for you.
Traitors.
But that's, like, good odds,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
really
that's a great statistic, that people, even if they don't like all of the posts, they're not put off by them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're engaging by disengaging. That's engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
They'll
an
linger.
answer. And I was going to say one other thing about the discipline of writing. I was going to ask as well, has it changed the way you go through your week? Like, are you now both looking out for stuff that is like a relatable Kiwi situation that you could think, oh yeah, that'll be a headline for the Lamington?
No.
Really?
Nah. I just like don't even. My brain is too wired for like stand up. So that's all I'm doing is thinking about stand-up jokes when I look at things. In Lamington, I have to like sit down and be like, okay, I'm just going to go through Stuff or NZ Herald and just find words or situations that inspire it. And then I just do it there. I hardly ever come up with a Lamington idea when I'm not writing specifically for the Lamington.
Interesting. How about you, Finn?
Yeah, sort of the same. I don't really think of headlines on the fly. It's become more of a discipline thing where I'll sit down and write all the headlines that I need to for that week. Sometimes in multiple sittings, but and sometimes with the additional boost of some illicit substances.
Marijuana
satire.
is behind a lot of the Lamington's headlines.
What do we call it?
We need to
Satire.
credit them. We need to give
It
a
is-
writing credit.
It is super
do a
funny
shout
how
out to them.
much it helps sometimes. I think just to get past that initial block of I can't think of anything to write, because then you'll come to one idea and it'll just connect a whole bunch of things in your head and you'll be like, oh, okay, what if I said this? Like,
Yeah. I've found that one thing I have to often do is I tend to write them. The first draft in my head comes out usually as something annoying or hypocritical that I've seen in the world, and then I have to soften it a little bit because not everyone is as critical of stuff as I am, and that I think stuff that's too harsh doesn't make it in because it's too confronting might be the word, or maybe it's too we're gonna that's too specific maybe. But
Cool.
That's one thing I've noticed in the way I have to go through 3 or 4 versions of a joke to get it to the final one. The other thing
on the flip
go ahead.
side, I think we're quite silly, so it's reining in the silliness.
Oh,
And I
going
think
not
that's
too
good, having
abstract.
the balance between like the cynical and the silly. I think that's where like a satirical news outlet is like that's where
true.
it should be.
One other thing, I don't know if I mentioned it when I was saying the things that the Lamington did right from the beginning was the word limit. When I was doing them, I didn't have a word limit in mind, and they were way too wordy. But the fact that we have a word limit of about 12 or 13, I think, for Lambo, that's like the peak. Did you calculate that through any particular mathematical means, or did you just kind of look at a few and think most of these are 12 letters and that seems about right?
I think it was mostly a graphic thing. Like, we got my wonderful sister Hannah McLachlan did the designs for the like template and the font and all of that. The pictures are designed by, of course, you and I, Taylor.
Yes, we do the photoshopping.
The photoshopping, but my
the
sister,
photography, the very real photography. We go out
of
into
course,
the world and
in the streets, taking photos of what is it, like fish at a school? I don't.
David Seymour biting the head off a dolphin or whatever that one was.
That happened. That actually happened.
You gotta catch him. He's quick.
So we're doing God's work out here, reporting on the news. But we my sister's a graphic designer, so we asked her if she could help us design the templates for the posts, and she very kindly did so. And just in that brief that she gave us and like talked us through like the design concepts and the rules of the, I'm not going to pretend to explain it, but the point is that she set a font size and what looked good, and she was the one who was like, don't have too many words in this because that's going to limit it. So essentially it's more of a pragmatic thing, a practical thing.
These things are always born out of that.
Yeah. But in saying that, it's a happy accident that I do think that a lot of the headlines should be capped at a certain word
We've
count.
got our shortest headline ever coming out soon.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that.
Word.
I imagine it'll probably be out by the time this pod airs, but they will have seen it, presumably, by then. I was going to say, are there any plans? So we've got... Did we cover this before we realised we weren't recording about what the plans for the future? I think we did, because you did your monologue and then said, fuck yeah. So I was going to say, are there any plans to create things in a real format? Like, right now they're in the square gallery, Insta gallery format, but are there plans to do like a graphic in the reels or stories dimensions, I guess is the correct word?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. It kind of depends on how much work we're willing to put into it at the moment, because
that's true.
We've also just moved countries, so we have a lot of we're running a satirical New Zealand news outlet from Australia.
And that's the best part of it, because they don't know. They don't know.
You've achieved the New Zealand dream by moving to Melbourne.
We're taking this country down from the inside.
Imagine if you guys just got jobs at the Batuta Advocate and left.
We use this as a springboard, and then we just trash
exactly.
it.
This is
they're like, the Lamington is posting really similar articles to us the day before we post them.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if there would be any space for a collaboration with Batuta at some point. That would be kind of cool to do some kind of...
You and I, we're like, don't worry guys, we'll get on the case, and we just never solve it.
Yeah, we'll figure out how this leak is happening. That would be cool. I do think Batuta's a little bit out of our league right now, but eventually...
Maybe for now, but I should say as
they're
well...
They're not silly enough, I don't reckon. I don't reckon they're silly enough.
Theirs is very political. And it's quite often, I think, based on very specific incidents on press conferences with, like, ScoMo and everything like that.
That's the thing, I don't think New Zealanders are that politically engaged, just in general.
Not really, no.
Like, I don't really care what happens in politics. Yeah. So those jokes don't really interest me. Like, if I saw a really well-crafted joke about I don't know, National Party politics, I still don't think that I would engage with it. Like,
yeah.
So I think for the Lamington, going down a intensely political route isn't probably the best option, but the silliness everyone can, maybe not everyone, but more
especially
people.
for young people.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot more accessible for especially people who function mostly on Instagram.
Exactly, yeah. Well, that's cool. I think we sort of covered everything. One other thing I was going to say is the name I thought was perfect for the news source. How did you come up with that? Was it just a list of Kiwi icons?
Name.
Oh, what was the original name?
New Zealand News Network Now. We wanted to do as many N's as we could.
That's why the tagline says that. Right.
Yeah, so we kept it in the tagline. Yeah. We just really liked how many we tried to fit as many of the word new as we could.
Yeah,
that makes
so
sense.
Like New Zealand News, a New Zealand News Network.
Yeah,
Network Now, something like
that.
that.
I think it was. Yeah.
Well, you could always recapture that by doing your away things, and you could call it like the Lamington News Network, like LNN.
Yeah, like my name is Chuck Barry. Welcome back to the Lamington, New Zealand's newest news network now.
Yeah. That was I think the original reason why we tried to have that as our name is because it was mostly geared around. We had planned to do like TikToks and Reels at that point.
Yeah.
We hadn't really established that this would be the structure. So I think having the joke be they have to read it out at the start of every reel is funnier.
I like that, yeah. There's another thing we don't really have to parody is our reporters aren't really that distinctive in New Zealand. I couldn't name a single news reporter.
Patrick Gower. I'd say Patrick Gower. I reckon you might be wrong there, Taylor.
Yeah,
I reckon
no,
Patrick Gower, John Campbell, those two are
Mike
pretty
McRoberts.
iconic. Mike McRoberts. Who's the guy on News Talk ZB? Yeah.
Hosking.
Mike Hosking.
Mike Hosking. I reckon.
Are they reporters though? Aren't they like news?
Oh, they're anchors.
Newsroom people? Yeah. Is that not the same thing?
I think
they do
probably
stuff.
A different thing.
Oh, maybe I'm prepared to eat my words there.
I think at least in the news space, there are iconic
That's fair.
figures.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I think they're pretty
Jessica
fun
Much
to base stuff
Mackay?
off.
Is that another one?
I don't know, but I'll believe you to prove me right.
I think there is also a type of there's an accent that New Zealand reporters use as well, and I didn't think that there was until one day. It was the women's. I don't think it was a march. I think it was just like a rally that happened on Courtney Place. Do you remember that, Danny? It was like a big. Nah. Anyway, I was there, and there was also a reporter there. Who was like reporting on it, and like there was a camera and she was talking about it, and hearing her speak in the real world out of the context of watching her on TV felt so strange, and that's when I realized like there is definitely a voice. I don't know if I can. It's such a specific
give it a go.
It's a cadence, eh?
Yeah, it's like we're here at the I'm Mike McRoberts. This is the news. It's like that type of. There's that. I can't describe it, but I definitely want to try.
And they always end them with the and all the residents may never recover, or that kind of
they never recover.
Yeah, back to you in studio. It's very
cool.
I know what you're talking about now that you mention it.
But the Lamington, we kind of toyed with a few different ideas, but then the Lamington stuck because that sounds like a real newspaper. And then if you write the Lamington in I don't know, Times New Roman, it looks quite newsy. If you have the L and the T and stuff,
it does, doesn't it?
It just looks cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great name.
Australia also tries to claim Lamingtons as their own, and I think putting a mark on it is the Pavlova wouldn't have worked, but I think the Lamington does for sure.
Yeah, Lamington has just a nice kind of flow to it.
Yeah, it also kind of sounds like a little British, and I think all sort of news has that tinge of old British, publication, the New York Times,
even the New York Times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it all sounds very old English, and I think the Lamington has that vibe as well.
It is funny if you go into an online newspaper generator and it gives you put in a word and it gives you a bunch of possibilities that it could be, and it's like, the something report, the something times, the daily something. It is really funny how all of these newspapers have a kind of shorthand where you kind of hear it and you go, oh yeah, that's newspapery.
Yeah.
So shall we get onto our sizzle reel of gags that we think should have gotten in but didn't, and then we could maybe riff on them and kind of maybe explain to each other why it didn't get in.
I found some gems. I found some gems that to be honest, I think I just kind of like missed and slept.
You're just going to push them through? So do we want to do this?
No. These are like, I'm reading ones that like were submitted, but they didn't make it. But I think they should have.
Okay.
Rather than ones I never submitted.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Is ones that you submitted but didn't get through, but you think they should have.
Okay, cool.
Do we want to go one at a time, or should we go one person at a time? What do you think would be better?
One at a time.
One at a time. Shall I start with one of mine?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Righto. Just bring up my wee list here. So my first one that I liked that didn't get through was Hell Pizza pushes the envelope yet again with its newest creation, the Dharma, which is Jeffrey Dahmer. And I think maybe the reason that didn't get through too dark, or people didn't get what I was going for. Any thoughts?
I think it needed another layer. I think it needs one more layer than that. Like, it either needs, like, to mention, like, who it's for, like, say, like, true crime, trying to break into the true crime enthusiast market, Hell Pizza. Like, it needs, like, just a slight extra joke in there,
Yeah,
I think.
I'm with you. What about you, Finn? Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I also think it's a few two steps removed from one another. And I think important having like a news article have like somewhat topical references. So having things like that are currently in the zeitgeist. From the 80s. I'm not saying that Dharma is. I mean, it's not very new, right? Of course, because he's gone. But I think like if it was like on the buzz of the TedBundy.co.
Sure.
Like I think. Yeah, having it referencing something that's happening in the zeitgeist at the moment is an important aspect of it. Alrighty,
Danny, what's one of yours?
So I've got some that I didn't actually submit, but I think other people did, and I think they're pretty good. It's been a while. Why have I still not seen that crocodile? I think that's pretty fun.
Yeah. I don't remember that one.
I don't remember.
I didn't remember it. I don't know who submitted it. I think it might have been Juani, but I don't remember it at all. And I was like, oh shit, that's like pretty good.
It does feel like him, yeah.
All right, Finn, what do you
got? This is 2 poops found at Airbnb. I like the word poops, so I think
that's the whole. That's the whole headline.
That's the whole headline.
That was a setup.
No. That's the whole headline. And
gotcha.
Truly, that is probably the reason why I didn't go through, because that is the whole headline.
Yeah. Well, no, there's no joke there.
Yeah.
It's just
the only funny part is poop. Like it needs to be like couple, except that 9 times out of 10 their Airbnb will probably have a little poop somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it needs the more like relatability sort of aspect to it.
Yeah, true. All right, next one of mine is Maui brought back in to give climate change a hiding. Not exactly grammatically correct. Like you can't give, he gave the sun a hiding. You can't necessarily give climate change a hiding. But I just like the Kiwism.
That could probably be fixed by going more specific with it, like to. What did he use to like get the reel in the sun?
His grandmother's jawbone or something.
Yeah, like uses that to like close the ozone layer or something.
Oh yeah, it's not bad. Cool.
Something Maui related in the future would be fun though.
Yeah, I've been trying to work Maui in since like day one. What's your next one, Danny?
Another one that wasn't mine. New James Bond film to be shot in New Zealand, Dr. Yeah Nah.
Oh, that was mine.
I like that.
Literally, Steve King, another comic, and I were talking about, we did a podcast on King's birthday, and we were talking about if there was a New Zealand James Bond, it would have to be called Yeah Nah. Yeah, I love that joke, but I think a little bit too subtle, and a lot of people probably don't know the movie's name, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only just getting that now.
And we're back. It was at that point the recording of Danny's stopped working for whatever reason. We don't know what happened, but yeah. I do have the rest of the interview from Finn and my point of view, but it seems like we're talking to an imaginary friend, and it's just very odd, and it's not a good listen. So we're going to end it there. Looks like I get the last laugh. One of the ones from my sizzle reel was the last one we spoke about, so I'm going to take that victory there and retire with some satisfaction. Both of those two are now based in Melbourne. They're both very funny stand-up comedians, so if you see their name on the bill for any show in Melbourne, do yourself the favour and go out and check them out. I'm going to post the links to their social media in the show notes, so go and check that out and follow them online. As for me, as always, every platform except for Twitter, at Taylor Ruddle Comedy. Go and visit Can Do Comedy on Facebook to check out what kind of events we have coming up. I am recording this a very long time in the past. This is about 3 or 4 weeks before the episode airs. So I don't know what we're doing at this point in terms of gigs, but I am sure there could be something fun on the horizon, as well as our usual gigs at Sprig and Fern, Union Fair, and possibly some of the other ones we've been doing a first try at. Really appreciate you listening. Hope you had a little bit of a giggle at our antics, and I hope the technical issues didn't take away too much from you enjoying the episode. We'll catch up with you next week. Knock on wood, it should be the next episode of the Phantom Files. I've been gathering up heaps of stories, got some really promising ones, and I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks kind of putting that together, mastering it, making it sound as good as possible. Can't wait to get that out to you. If it's another one, I apologise, but right now, that's what I think is going to be coming out next, is the next Phantom Files. Thanks again. We'll catch you next week. Ruddler out.